Hello everyone, welcome to episode 6 of From the Ashes. I'm very excited about this episode because I've got with me today as a guest the architect of UBW, the man that laid the blueprints, laid the foundations of everything that UBW is today. He's the brains and the driving force behind Square One, which is the absolute best training school around today, which everyone is flocking to use. And he's the man that really gave me a second life in wrestling at a time when I was ready to just jack it all in, which we will talk about and explain in the podcast itself. My guest today, of course, is Hugo Bloom, one half of the Heavyweight Heartbreakers, and like I say, the man behind UBW. We talk about how UBW first came to be, how it started out, his journey from the start of that through many, many different personas and evolving more and more with each one and becoming what he is now. His personal life and some big challenges that he's had in his life that have really kind of shaped his wrestling career and driven different parts of it. And we share some very fun and good memories. It's a really interesting and really good chat, which, let's be honest, if it wasn't for him, there would be no UBW. There may not even be a me in wrestling. But without him and UBW starting off, there may not have been a lot of the stars that we have now. So Charles Crowley, Memes, Bobby Tyler, Tommy Kyle, Paddy O'Connor, Ricky Calvey, Evie Rose, the list goes on. It's his vision and his work that's helped this get to where it is today. So sit back and enjoy the episode. Hope you get a good insight into how UBW has become what it is. A lot more of an insight into the person behind Hugo Bloom. And it's a fun ride. One thing I will add as well, for the future episodes I've got coming up, and I've got a few more to do for this, what I'm going to call season 1 before I have a short little break. Any questions you've got, you want to have me raise on the podcast, or you want to actually have me raise to the upcoming guests. So upcoming, we've got RJ Singh, we've got Memes, we've got Paddy O'Connor. Any questions you want me to throw at them, or anything as a topic you'd like me to maybe talk about for a short while, throw them over to me either in response to the posts on Facebook and Instagram. Email me at ubwpaul@gmail.com. Throw any questions or queries over, and we'll discuss them on the podcast, either myself or between us. So anyway, sit back, enjoy the podcast. Here we go. So here we are, one half of the Heavyweight Heartbreakers, one half of the UBW Tag Team Champions, and at this rate, we're going to be the longest reigning Tag Team Champions by default. And the brains and the power and the starting blocks behind UBW itself, ladies and gentlemen, Hugo Bloom.
Hey, thanks, Paul. Thanks for having me on.
No, you're more than welcome. Since I planned on doing this podcast, I didn't want to start off with the big hitters. I wanted to kind of lead into it. And I know I'm going to get grief from Crowley and Bobby for that. But, I want to kind of space things out. But it was always an intention to build up to getting you on. I wanted to kind of get the listeners thinking about UBW first as an entity. Then we'll dig into it on a deeper level. And I think, there's nobody that's going to be able to dig into it on a deeper level than yourself. So we'll crack through. I'm sure we'll cover some very interesting points. And I'm interested in talking about your development, because obviously I've known you since the Genesis and how you've gone through and how you've changed from there. So let's kick off, shall we?
Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah. 8 years now. At the end of January, just gone. It was 8 years since I first walked in on my first training session. So,
and that's quite mind blowing, because I've lost all track of time and what the time actually means anymore. But the fact that it's been 8 years is quite terrifying.
Yeah, a lot's happened in 8 years.
That's for sure. So we'll go over that, but let's look back to the start of this. So let's look at you before UBW. So now I know that you're not like a lot of the other wrestlers that you live, breathe, eat, sleep watching wrestling in terms of on TV. You don't actually watch that much of it. I don't think you ever have in the time I've known you. But what was your startings in terms of interest in wrestling, drawn to wrestling, and then what made you go, do you know what? I'm going to start up UBW. I'm going to start an own wrestling promotion and get things up and running in the area. Take us through the kind of building blocks for that, as well as how you actually started and what kind of drew you to it.
Yeah, no worries. So, like most, grew up watching wrestling as a young lad. I do have a number of siblings in my immediate family, and between my brothers and my younger sister, we'd watch Raw, we'd watch SmackDown, The Heat, and all the other different programs that were on at the time, and follow it from there, and almost allowed the antics to overspill into the living room, which was carnage at times. But my dad did his best to keep control of that. But then, sort of fast forward a number of years, sort of late teens, I kind of just knuckled down with sort of starting a career. I moved country. I came back, and then chatting to a friend of mine from school who we'd been friends, I think 15 years at the time, but by this point, we'd discussed about looking for a wrestling school. So we were just doing some sort of digging online. Couldn't really see a lot apart from one place, which was the Hertfordshire Pro Wrestling School, which was obviously run at the time by Skip and Cruz. So literally popped along for our first session, and I fell in love with it from there, really. But you're right, I don't watch as much wrestling as quite a lot of other people do. I definitely watch it now more from a study standpoint, as opposed to, I think, a diehard fan would. But I try and keep in the loop with what's going on. But I don't sit and religiously watch it week in, week out.
Yeah. So when you were younger and you first started watching wrestling, first got into it, did you have much of a sporty background in your youth? Did you participate in sports at school or anything, or any kind of dramatics or anything? Because wrestling's a very weird, very unusual in its own little kind of multiverse itself product, that it doesn't necessarily draw in the sports people. It doesn't necessarily bring in the entertainment and drama people, but it pulls people from every walk of life. How is it that it drew you in? What was it about wrestling that you either saw or experienced and went, that's the thing for me?
It was really the larger than life appeal of the WWF product back in the day. And I did do sports growing up. There was a time from 10 to probably about 14, 15, where I was the fat kid at school, would be bullied, and wouldn't be partaking in sports by choice at the time. I used to, loathe PE just because it was just another thing that I was going to suck at. But I think from 16 onwards, I started going to the gym. Really, like, in terms of my fitness and sports interest, it really revolved around sort of the gym and training in that respect, in that sort of kind of isolated environment. Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, that's interesting. And I tend to find a lot of people, there's very rarely people that have the, if you will, college jock background, especially in this country, they get into wrestling. It tends to be the people that either weren't at all physical or didn't like PE or weren't involved in sports or anyway. And I think a lot of that comes from the fact that it's such a strange hybrid. It's a performance-based sport. I think that really helps in terms of drawing those kind of people in. And I think generally, from my experience, they're a better breed of people to have because, and that's not knocking anyone who's a sportsman, but they tend to be very centric on the physicality and the mechanics of what they're doing rather than what wrestling needed, which is way beyond that. So it's a weird thing in that sense, but it's good that it obviously piqued your interest. It attracted you. It drew you in. When you first went along to what was the Hertfordshire school with Skip and Cruz, what were your expectations? And do you think those were met? And do you think those were different to what you expected? I mean, I imagine you probably saw things like Tough Enough, which is obviously a phenomenal all catered for facility. But obviously the Hertfordshire school was quite different to that. It was a martial arts gym. How was that in terms of expectations?
Yeah, it's quite funny you mentioned Tough Enough, actually, because I think Tough Enough started in and around the time where I was getting really interested in again within wrestling. And in terms of my expectation, whether it was met or not, I think I approached my first session or first sessions, as it were, with quite an open mind, purely because, I'd never done anything quite like it. I dabbled in sports, I've even done things like boxing, rugby, football. Over the time, I've always been a doer rather than a watcher of any kind of sport. But just went in with a really open mind. It was mat-based training, with a Muay Thai ring that if was ever bumped in, you'd first of all realise physically, and there was an instance of that on my first session before I was told that it wasn't a proper ring for bumping in.
I always call that ring the free chiropractor session.
Yeah, you're not far off. I actually I took a back bump in it, winded myself, and bit my tongue all at the same time. It was very special.
It's a trifecta.
Yeah, so certainly wasn't going to be repeated after that.
And in terms of the training itself, how did that meet with expectations? Were you thinking that, first session we're going to learn how to do a shooting star press and a power bomb, and all of a sudden you're learning how to actually do the basics, how to land safely, how to move and stuff? Because I know a lot of people, I've certainly experienced over the years, a lot of people come along and they have that expectation, and it's a real sharp shock to them. And a lot of them, it can turn them off. I mean, we've seen that before. We've seen people come along, have one session, and they go, no, this isn't tough enough. I don't want to do this. How did that work for you?
Absolutely. I think I don't want to put anyone down or anything, but I always feel like I've had a bit more of a level head when it comes to expectations and managing expectations. I think it comes from sort of my corporate life and work outside of wrestling, but I certainly anticipated spending, a good number of sessions just on basics, just on safety, which is exactly what happened. And in terms of all the other stuff, I mean, when I started, I was strong enough to handle my own sort of body weight and things like that. And like I said, I've been training in the gym for a little while, but not as seriously as what I've adopted since obviously training for a number of years. So in terms of the expectation of, being like German suplexes, power bombs, all that kind of stuff, there was no way I walked in thinking, I'm going to power bomb someone today. That stuff terrified me at the beginning, and not the receiving of it, it's the giving of it, because obviously you're responsible for someone's livelihood and safety there and then. And I only broached that sort of stuff as and when I felt comfortable and safe doing so.
And it's so interesting to hear that, because it's so refreshing to have someone actually coming in with that mindset and understanding that it's a long game. But also, one thing you mentioned, and I've spoken about this before on Phil Bedwell's podcast, that I think the life you lead outside of wrestling is integral and imperative to how your mind works inside of it. Because if you're in the real world and you've got real world responsibilities, you've got an actual proper job, you pay bills, you understand that there's a hierarchy in any kind of business. If you've got that kind of understanding, you'll survive the wrestling world better, because you understand how the real world works. The people I find that don't last, or that don't make it, or just break down really quickly, are the ones that just live in a fantasy world. They don't have real world problems, and because of that, the reality of wrestling, which is it's not easy, it hits them so hard and they don't know how to take it. So I know from experience that that's one of the key factors as to why you've lasted as long and as well as you have, and we'll go into that more. But that's why you've succeeded, because you've got the right mentality. The mentality is everything in this.
100%. You hit the nail on the head, and I couldn't have said it better myself, actually. So I think the other thing, as well as having that more rounded life experience, one of the things I think drives people when they first sort of get into the wrestling business is It's just their general maturity levels. So I know back when I was 16, I was looking for a school back then and couldn't find anywhere. There was nowhere reachable by transport. You know, I didn't have the ability to be sort of shuttled to and from training of a weekend, you know, hundreds of miles away. Then fast forward again till I was 23, you know, a lot happened between the ages of 16 and 23 in just general life and my maturity. And then so I started training when I was 23. So I'd come in as quite a, very mature 23-year-old. Whereas I know some guys come in, you know, fresh out of school, fresh out of education or university, and you know, maybe they don't have that rounded life experience, which is no discredit to them, but it's definitely helped me, like you say.
Well, that's something I was going to touch on, but we'll actually go to it now. Actually, something we've seen over time, purely in the UBW school, and I've seen this at all the schools that I've taught at, which is over a dozen. We've seen a difference over time in terms of the generations of people that have come in, and one thing because I've been studying it and looking at it, and one thing I've noticed as a trend is the people that have that life experience or that maturity are the ones that are stuck with it or done the best. And again, this isn't to knock people, because it just isn't for some people. I think some people need to do it and struggle at it, go away, get some life experience and maturity, come back, and then the second time round, they're going to hit it better. I've seen that a lot of times as well.
Yep.
But you look at a lot of the people we've got now, you look at Memes, Crowley, Tommy Kyle, just as 3 examples. They're people with real-time, real-life world experience and jobs. Crowley's used to, because of his acting career, having to act a certain way, pardon the pun, but knockbacks, having to behave and understanding there's a hierarchy. It means he's very successful in his outside of the world, wrestling world kind of life. Tam, absolutely, he's had a career forever. And that has helped them suffer through it thus far in the ups and downs and strive and survive. And there's been other people that haven't had that life experience, and it's broken them down very quickly. And I think, like you say, it is maturity, and it's not saying they're immature as in they're childish. It's as in they haven't been through stuff yet. They haven't been through shit, and they haven't been toughened by the world.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. So when I started at 23, I was running my own business outside of wrestling.
Yes.
So I don't know if you remember that far back.
There's not a lot I remember beyond yesterday, but I do remember the jelly venture. And well, I mean, myself and Alex were highly invested in seeing you succeed with that, and you did really well with it.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, it was good. Won a couple of awards with it as well. So sadly, it wasn't to be. I think timing of it wasn't great. Obviously, then had my father passed away, which was a big inspiration for it. But then kind of after that point, I had to, get serious about some sort of more sturdy career, just to be able to cover sort of financials and stuff like that. So, running with that business was no longer an opportunity. But by all means, in the 2.5 years, I was sort of self-employed and running that company. But it taught me a lot about myself, about life, about responsibility, about how to manage things and get things off the ground and keep them running and all that sort of stuff. Burning the candle at both ends, as my dad would have said at one point with regards to trying to run that and obviously make a start of wrestling and just having a life outside of it all as well. I remember from a second-hand perspective, seeing you grow as a person during that time. And we'll get into a second as to how we first met and you started out, but you were always very level-headed and you were always very mature. But during that time, you could physically see you growing and the stresses you went through at that time trying to make the business work and just the endless hours. I remember having conversations with you, begging you to take a step back, but it's what you had to do to make it work. And it was, you won awards for it. It was getting picked up by national distributors. Yeah, it was very successful. And like you mentioned as well, going through
the personal hardship at the same time with your family, that's a testing time. And I think the strengthening that all of that stuff at the same time gave you has set you up for where you are now by far.
Yeah. No, and I never look back at any of those thinking, I wish I'd carried on with business, or obviously I wish that hadn't happened. I don't live with those sorts of regrets when it comes to either career choices or how things started, how things got off the ground. I don't have any of those regrets, which is fundamental. And as I say, it's all led on to where we are now. So yeah, and I'm very happy with where I am now and where things are generally with sort of UBW and obviously the academy and stuff as well.
Yeah, we'll certainly get into that. And just to finish that bit off, I mean, as you know, I'm currently going through therapy sessions myself. And one thing we're doing with that is the journey of kind of owning your demon. And I've got to the point, and it was the past couple of sessions I've had, it had been the big realization. The demons and stuff, they never go. But the key is learning to accept them and kind of become one with them. And it sounds almost cheesy and kind of hippie-like in a way, but you go through it and you realize there's nothing wrong with having regrets, but it's not allowing those regrets to either own you, shape you, or restrict you.
Yeah, absolutely.
You put them down as experiences and you learn to own who you are. And I'm going through that journey at the moment, and it's hard, but it's a real light bulb moment. And I've always said at the end of the day, it's better to have done something and then moved on from it than to have never experienced it. And to run your own business, to own your own business, to make that successful, that's something a lot of people will never do. It's a massive, massive thing to do and achieve.
No, thank you very much. But it's a lot of these things, either positive things or negative things. You've got to chalk it up to life experience, and like you say, don't try and bury it. It'll never disappear, but just acknowledge it. Work on a new approach or a better approach to the issue, and sort of do your best you can with moving forward with it. That's
absolutely. So let's jump to 2013 and the start of UBW. So we'll go into how I first met you. So I was working a show in Hitchin at a circus, and boy was it a circus. And at the time, a good friend of mine, so Skip being one of them, and another guy I live with, which we won't go into, they mentioned that they were training at the Hertfordshire school, and they mentioned that they met you, and you were looking at starting up a wrestling company. Now, in fairness, over the 20 odd years that I've been involved in the business, the amount of times I've heard people go, I'm going to start running shows. And you go, oh, okay. And they do one or two shows, realize it's really hard, and they're gone again. So first of all, I was really skeptical. And I was like, literally my response was, oh, okay, here's another one. Okay. And we'll wait and see. But then I met you at the Hitchin show we did. And immediately I knew you were different, because you weren't running around wide-eyed looking at the wrestling ring going, oh, my God, I get a chance to play as a wrestling booker. You were actually, no, I've got a business plan. I've got a structure idea. I've got this, and this. And I thought, okay, maybe this kid's going to make it, kind of thing. Yeah. So take me through kind of what made you think, do you know what, it's time to start a promotion and I'm going to be the one to do it, because that's a bold move.
Yeah, no, it is. And I remember our first meeting very well. In fact, the words that Moz used when introducing me was, this is the money guy, I think was the line, if you recall, that he used. And like looking back now, I remember the look on your face, and I'm now, obviously, I haven't gone through this myself for a number of years and seen it myself. Your point about so many people saying that they're going to start running shows, run a couple, and then that's them done, doors shut.
You've lived it now, you've seen it.
Yeah. So looking back at your reaction and your face at the time, you could kind of see that on your face. You're like, oh right, yeah, that sounds good. And then that hesitation in the back with, will it actually follow through? But that's funny actually. Now you mention that. hadn't thought about that before. But in terms of the crux and the driver for it, so we were training. There was a number of us obviously training at that school at the time. The two coaches, Skip and Cruz, were working for a number of promotions at the time. There was one sort of based over in sort of Dunstable, Milton Keynes way. And a few of us trainees that started in and around the same time, would go to these shows, watch them and see, they were what they were. At the same time, they weren't great. There was great matches. There were not so great matches, but just the way things were run and the overall presentation. And I was sat sort of thinking, I can do better than this. I can put on a better product. I wasn't going to start being fantasy booker. I didn't know any independent wrestlers at that time, so obviously leveraged Skip and Cruz to do the sort of booking side of it, whilst I kind of managed the venues, the advertising, the business side of it, and making sure that it all made money and that we had good attendance and that we could then therefore afford to move on to the next one and grow it and grow it and grow it, which we did. So really it was out of a drive and out of a desire to improve what was on in the local community, really. I think one of the other things that particular company didn't do great was they'd go to one venue one week, another venue maybe 10, 15 miles down the road, and would put on the exact same show. Yeah. And I'm thinking, these venues are close enough for you to have following fans from one to the other, and you're putting on the exact same show, like from start to finish, identical. It screams sort of laziness to me. And their laziness was sort of our opportunity, as it were.
Yeah, and I understand and agree with that completely, because you look at any other entertainment medium, it has to change and evolve over time. And if you keep doing the same stuff, I mean, okay, you've got music and the hardcore fans of a band will want to see the classics. But if you've got, say, I don't know, 4 good songs and you do nothing but them non-stop, every show consistently for years, people are going to get bored of it. And you need to have that versatility and that range. So, it's a very good point. And I think that it was one of those places, like a lot of places, it was a vanity promotion almost in a way. It's safe to say this because the people behind it are never not going to be involved in the rest of the business ever again. But it was, as I've seen a lot of times, a vehicle for people to get themselves onto shows because no one else will book them.
Yes.
So absolutely. I've seen that happen a lot, and it never goes well. But it's interesting and it's refreshing to know that you came into it with a business mind, because so few do. So few come into it with a kind of wrestling cosplay mind. I'm going to put on a wrestling show just like I've seen on TV. But you actually looked at it as a business sense and go, okay, well, no, we're doing a business that runs wrestling. And then your very comment there of we need to make sure we get people in so we can afford to do another show.
Yes.
I remember literally less than 2 years ago having this conversation with a person who I won't name, but that person literally said the line to me of, why are you so worried about how many people are going to turn up and how many people are in here? Just have some fun. So we have to walk away out of anger because it's just that stupidity.
That's it. And like you're talking about, like that other promotion being a vanity project and things like that. It'd have been quite easy just to turn around and say, look, guys, I'm going to front a load of money for some shows. I'm putting myself on the main event. I'm putting myself over. I'm green as goose shit, but you'll make me look good. And then we do 2 shows and then that's it. And then, my wrestling journey's ended. There isn't that local promotion then built up over the years that we have had to then provide that platform for everyone else. So it made no sense. Like actual, using common sense and thought and logic and, some brain cells, like that was never the way to go.
That model was known as the British special.
Well, as I say, it's not even just that one place. I mean, I have seen it a few places, but again, none of those places are still in existence either. So,
no. But on to UBW. So, when you first had the brainchild and the idea for UBW, and you were speaking with Skip and Cruz about organising the shows and everything, I remember at the time, I wasn't involved in training at all. I wasn't involved in anything. I was taking a bit of time away from wrestling. I'd become quite disillusioned with everything, and I was a bit sick of it. But they persuaded me to come down training and get involved and maybe add a bit of experience and help to it, which I did. And I actually really enjoyed it because I saw a lot of hungry young wannabes, which is always my weak spot. But I don't remember, so you might have to help me out on this. But I remember somehow the idea came up to have me and Phil on as the Breed, working the shows, doing the tag for the first time in many years.
Yeah. So that was the first show, wasn't it? That was the St Albans show.
It was indeed.
Yeah. So the idea from that, was purely, I think, Cruz and Skip's idea in terms of getting you guys in. Like I said just a moment ago, I didn't know any independent British wrestlers at the time. I didn't know who was local. I had no connections whatsoever. Didn't know who was good, who was bad, who was worth their salt and worth their money, and who wasn't. So outside of obviously what I had seen on shows, thinking, oh, that guy's good, that guy's not very good from that studying aspect. So it's those two guys really that booked those first few shows before you came into the fold for helping with the booking and stuff like that.
And hey, it spoke to my ego. I mean, it was an opportunity to go and have some fun. So, the idea of getting the chance to do us as a tag for the first time at that point in about 6 years, of course, the mark inside of me went, I'll have some of that.
Yeah, no, it's good though. Those shows are cracking, like in terms of the quality and who was involved at the time. Pulling in like Johnny Kidd, RJ, yeah. So like, didn't pull any punches with those shows.
Well, you think as well, it was a virgin territory. There wasn't anybody else established there, so they didn't know what they were getting when they went to see a wrestling show. But it was virgin territory, a start-up promotion which nobody knew. There weren't any of the quote-unquote big names on the scene. Only a legendary Johnny Kidd, and when we had RJ on, I think it was possibly the second show, he was the biggest name probably at that point. Yeah. But to go into an area with something like that as a prospect and completely fill the place, no seats available, we sold the entire place out, that's a big achievement for a first run. That really is.
Yeah, they're about 300-400 people crowds, I think.
They were just short of 400, both of them.
And a thing to note about that is that they weren't all, your regular wrestling fans. A lot of them were just families that wanted some entertainment that wasn't, X Factor on a Saturday night.
Yeah.
And it was tapping into them and making sure that just whatever we put on was, first of all, entertaining, professionally presented, worth the ticket price, but ultimately, didn't stink the place out. In terms of the actual performers and the performances that were on the card. So,
and it's a funny thing on that, because there's always the old school mindset of the first match on the show needs to set the tone for the rest of the night. So the first thing you do is got to hook them in. And when that show was being organised, I remember talking backstage to, it was Colt Kelly and Tommy Nova in his old former name. And I remember saying to them, there's two youngsters, first time out, like, guys, no pressure. This whole show rides on you. This is all down to you. This is it. Go out, start out the blocks hard, start hot and heavy. Ricky, go straight to the top rope and dive onto Colt on the floor. Oh, really? Just dive up the top rope, one dive, swanton straight onto him. It'll start hot. People go, holy shit, look at this wrestling. Go for it. And he did, and Colt didn't catch him. So we started strong.
Start you mean to go on.
That's where my bad influence comes in. But honestly, it did help because people saw that and went, oh, okay, these guys mean business. And then we just went on and bush, delivered through the night.
Yeah, that was great. And just the atmosphere as well was great.
But we can't talk about the first show without mentioning one thing.
Go on.
Captain.
Yeah.
When you were your previous guys as
Yeah, again, like looking back, like there's a lot has happened in 8 years, Paul. I'll stick with that line. But yeah, looking back, I don't know why I thought that was a good character or gimmick to go into. I think it was between Cruz and Skip again when it came to like character development. This was again just before you joined in at school. It was a case of, you know, it doesn't matter that you don't have like a full-on character when you first, you know, go into a rumble. You know, it's fine just to be generic wrestler number one and you're just in some plain trunks or some plain gear. Don't worry about spending like loads of like, hundreds of pounds on a custom gear, because like the gimmick might not stick. You might not like it. And what did I do? I went out and I spent a couple of £100 on a customized singlet, boots, blue and red boots. Yeah, I used it like a couple of times, if that, and then it's in a bag in the wardrobe. I think
we've all done that at some point, but the important thing is it got you the confidence to perform.
Yeah, and I say it to people now when they come to me about sort of starting out and obviously free the academy and character ideas and development and stuff like that. I give the same advice that I received. That doesn't mean that I, you know, went with the advice I received. But looking back, that's one of the things I wish I'd just gone, okay, but your excitement and you get carried away at the time and you're thinking, I've got my persona, I'm nailed, you know. And it didn't work with it. Captain Cassius, rest in peace. I think he fell off the horse that he apparently rode for the Queen's Guard, didn't he?
I think he did. I think he fell off that and
fell off the horse and got trampled to death.
Yeah, so he got trampled under a parade of horses and beefeaters. But you know, it's experience. It was good at the time. It was good at the time.
Funny.
So obviously we went on from there.
Thank you for mentioning that.
You're more than welcome. We went on from there, and next step was so. Just to give a bit of backstory, it's about second show or so. We had a very unreliable person on the roster, pulled out last minute, or actually just didn't turn up. So I had to step in to help kind of crisis manage the situation, which kind of led to me having some booking input and some ideas, which led to me kind of getting kind of quite involved behind the booking side. Skip moved off to Dubai for a while. Yeah. So that kind of helped me take the reins. But part of that was helping people develop, and some of that meant changes. And I think we both knew from the start that Captain Cassius, good vehicle to start off with, but wasn't going to get you anywhere. Wasn't any kind of legs behind it. No. So I think it was my suggestion maybe for the next iteration of what you were going to be.
Yeah. No, you were the brains behind Drake Cavendish Wentworth.
And the reason that gimmick, the reason I went with that was because you're you're naturally very dry. You're not massively colourful in a room.
Yeah. So
because of that, there's no point in making you some kind of party goer or some kind of Crowley or Tim Lee-esque kind of character. It needed to be something that you could fit into comfortably for your first year or so to get the confidence when you're in there, and then let everything else flow out from there onwards. And it's been tried and tested and done a million times over. And I thought, you know what? Let's just rip off Steve Regal. And off we went.
That was a lot of fun, actually. Those years that I used that character, and it did help me grow, help me get sort of a bit more exposure on shows as well, and my first taste of sort of, you know, going to other promotions and just guest seminars and then onto shows and stuff like that. There was a lot of fun I think we had with that character, with the vignettes and with the whole the ensemble, with working with the Sween and Moz and those guys as well.
Well, the thing is, like, I always say to people when we're talking about characters and gimmicks, you're an unknown quantity. You haven't got TV. You're not an international superstar. They don't know you. So you've got approximately, as by advertising rules, 3 to 5 seconds. The minute you come out that curtain to either grab their attention or have them give up on you.
Yeah.
So the things that you do when you first come out are imperative. If you don't have a character, or you're just guy in pants going, come on, it's not going to go well. But the minute that Drake Cavendish Wentworth walked out wearing a long velour cape with the slick back hair, with the magenta colorings and the nose up in the air. The minute you walked out, nobody needed to be told what you were doing, who you were, what your inspiration was. Everyone knew from the very first second, that guy's a dickhead.
Yeah, I was going to say it was fairly instant in terms of the boos that followed any sort of entrance. But as I say, I've got to hand a lot of that over to the likes of Moz as well for inspiring and driving that as a ringside manager. Do you remember the old the perfume sprayer type bit that we ripped off of Rick Martel?
Yeah, we pretty much went through every single possible gimmick addition to Drake.
Yes.
I mean, I must admit, I remember I did veto the beret, but apart from that,
I'm glad we did take the beret. But the pillow with the belt.
Yeah, the velvet cushion was fine. That was no problem. The cape was great, but the beret was where I drew the line. That was no. But yeah, Moz was obviously a big factor in that, and he's got a great brain for it, a lot more than he gives himself credit. But he was always more than just a valet. He was actually helping at ringside and actually directing things. He was a great help to you, no doubt.
God heavens, yeah, absolutely. Even to the point of, the match is finished and I'm quite possibly blown in terms of cardiovascular fitness at the time. And, he'd be whispering in my ear, "Oh, remember to engage with the crowd," and things like that. So in terms of directing traffic, yeah, he was more than just the mouthpiece, but yeah, it was a real sort of experienced hand to have next to me. It was great.
But then early on, you hit what can only be described as a hell of a roadblock with a full-on hamstring tear.
Yeah.
When you tore the hamstring, I mean, it was I think your first couple of years in, wasn't it?
I think it was a year in.
Yeah, it's very, very early days. And it's similar to, as I was saying to CJ on the pod with him, with his knee injury. Something like a hamstring tear is enough to make someone go, "Yeah, I'm done." But you just used it as a stopgap and kind of like, okay, no, it's fine. It just means I need to build this up stronger. I need to get bigger. I need to keep training, and I need to go back.
That was it.
Yeah, I was going to say, take us through the kind of your headspace at that time. Did you ever think at any point, "Well, I'm done," or did you just look at it and go, "Fine, I'll just come back bigger and stronger"?
Yeah, because it happened so early. I was still, and I'd really only just had a flavour of like the Rumble and bits and bobs like that. So I was still so early on that I'm like, I'll just rest it up. I'll come back, healed, bigger, stronger, as you say. Again, that hamstring tear was actually done playing football. So it comes back to that point I was talking about earlier about the other bits that I've dabbled with over the time. But tearing that was unbearable. I think I was on the shelf for 16 weeks before I could train. And that was actually at a time, so it was absolutely 7 years ago. So 2014.
Mind blowing. I remember it, and I was really concerned at the time because I was very aware that this is the kind of thing that can make people go, "No, I'm not doing this anymore. This is risking my everyday life." But like I say, the fact that you just used it as a driver was quite incredible, and you did come back stronger.
It was in that first year, and actually leading up, probably that injury in terms of recovering from it. That's when I realised I was like, if I'm gonna make a go of this and be serious about wrestling and progressing and lasting, having a long enough run that I'm, really happy with. I'm going to have to do some serious work in terms of physical training, physical development and things like that. Because like I said, I started training. I wasn't in bad shape. I wasn't in great shape, but bumps, things like that takes its toll. And I'm thinking, right, I need some protection on this frame. Because at the moment it is just hitting home and it's hurting, and I need to develop to be a better performer and also just a more well protected athlete, as it were. So it was after that injury that rehab was hard, because after that many weeks it is a case of learning to walk again on both legs and that kind of stuff. Like I couldn't even put a sock on my own foot when I was laid up for most of that time. And just in terms of personal space as well, like I'd be looking after my dad at that point in time, and he'd be looking after me. It was a real sort of, you know, Dad, if you put my sock on, I'll go and make you lunch type thing. It was that kind of trade-off, you know.
But like I say, it's impressive because it can be the kind of thing that can make anyone just say, I've known people with far lesser injuries say, well, wrestling's not for me then, and it can turn them away. But to use that as a driver, it's very impressive. And I think it did help you come back even stronger because you came back determined to not let that define you, which is a strong and important thing to do. But as is typical you didn't come back and go, well, you know, I'm going to take it easy. I'm going to be, you know, a bit more careful now. Your next idea was, I'm going to go into an amateur boxing competition.
Yeah.
Which wasn't that long after you came back.
No, it wasn't. And that was actually a memory of my dad. So my dad passed away in the March of 2014. I tore my hamstring like January 2014. So, and I was still obviously running this business at the same time as well. And yeah, it was after that I thought, you know, in memory of him, I'll raise some money for, it was cancer research through Ultimate White Collar Boxing. Sorry, Ultra White Collar Boxing.
You're blurring the brand there, mate.
Yeah. It's casting my mind back to that time. It's phenomenal, but raised a lot of money. But yeah, threw myself into that sort of charity boxing arena. And the training for that, again, was just intense. I didn't win the first one. I went on to a second one and I won the second one. But I only didn't win the first one because I went, again, sort of the advice you're given beforehand is don't go out thinking every punch is a haymaker, which is exactly what I went out and did. I was throwing bombs left, right and centre, and some of them were hitting, some of them were missing, but I just blew myself up. And although I broke his nose with those massive gloves as well, I was quite impressed by that. I popped that open fairly early. So I sensed blood at that point. I sensed victory, but he had the long game in mind, which was absolutely the right thing to do. The ref stopped it because I was no longer holding my guard up. My defense was actually just punching him in the face. I think I was windmilling for a good couple of rounds, basically.
Hey, on the streets, that'll work.
Yeah. And the second time around again, I was conscious at this point, you know, I can't lose twice. Like, I've lost once, I've learned from it. He actually tore, the guy I fought in that first fight as well, he tore his left bicep at some point in that. So whether he was throwing a punch and I blocked it and it just pinged off or whatnot, but I remember him sending me pictures of that purple bicep and up into his shoulder area where he had like torn it. I was like, bloody hell! You might have won. You might have won the victory, but I think I won the war. But
exactly, yeah.
I felt fine the next day. He woke up in all sorts of agony. But the second time, I trained much harder than the other guy. And yeah, it was a complete different ball game than the first fight.
Yeah, it's incredible to go on to doing something that physical after such a big injury, because I'm worried because it's in boxing, you're moving around, you're planting your feet, you're leaning on your legs when you're kind of dodging a punch. I was really concerned that you were just going to re-blow that hamstring at any point, but no, you came out of it, and it was very impressive considering. But then going on to that, so again, onto the point of you not understanding what it means to take a back step or do things lightly. It wasn't long till you got interested in strongman competitions.
Yeah. So that was fast forward to last year. And throughout lockdown, obviously not having gyms and stuff was like over the last few years, like the gym has become like a second home to me and a sanctuary. And, you know, some people go to church, I go to the gym. That's just the way it is for me. But it was, last July, when outdoor gyms reopened, actually, Lee Rogers basically got in contact and said that there's this strongman gym that's based in a tunnel out of High Wycombe in Buckinghamshire, which is 100 miles round trip from where I live. And I I was desperate just to train again. So I signed up, went down there, and I was traveling that 100-mile round trip, five days a week for a good number of weeks, just to get myself back into shape again, thinking that one lockdown was all the lockdowns there was going to be, shows were going to reopen and all that sort of stuff. Obviously that never happened, but started training with some of the strongmen and taking some of the strongmen classes down at that gym. Wild Training Centre is down in High Wycombe, and the guys that train at Strongman, it's though it's very much a singles game. Like it's not a team sport by any means. Everyone is there willing you on. Even the people you're competing against will you on to do the best for you, which you don't see in any other sort of solo sport. Not that I've come across, but the actual training itself and the physicality behind it is so complementary for wrestling. I hadn't even thought about it beforehand, but since it's all about explosive strength, but also the stamina to be able to see something through to the end, which is what wrestling's about, right? You've got your peaks and your troughs in a match, and if you can do part of a match 5, 7, 10 minutes in, and you can still pick someone up and throw them over your head, then fantastic. And kind of doing that with sandbags, again, helps me develop the explosive strength that's required for wrestling. So they work so well together, hand in hand, really.
And that's interesting, because something I've always said to people for literally probably the last decade at least, if not more, when they're training and they're trying to get themselves into physical training for wrestling, I tell everyone, do powerlifting and do weights. Don't go to the gym, just do cardio. Don't go and just do, your fitness training, because you'll have a great tank, but you need beyond that. And you need to have the mentality that explosive powerlifting style training gives you. Like you mentioned, if you're doing a clean and jerk, you can't do that in a structured, and let's get our full, and that's it. You just got to go and just throw it up. Anything like that. And that's the explosiveness. And it also helps you draw fire from within. So when you're 20 minutes deep in a match and you're a babyface and you've got to fire up and you've got to stand there and do your Eddie Guerrero moment, it's not a kind of thing you can necessarily learn that easily, or you feel a dick doing it. If you've done this kind of stuff, you know what it's like. You know what it's like to dig deep and find that extra bit to push forward. It's essential stuff, and I wish more people would do it. Yeah,
it's the same advice I give people now. Not everyone has to be, the huge guy. Wrestling's moved on from that, but you do one thing you have to be is athletic. Whatever your body shape, you have to be athletic. You have to be able to go. You have to be able to perform, and you have to be able to do things safely for you, for the guys you're working with, and obviously the fans who are watching. So if any of those elements are missing, then it's not good.
You need to be able to switch gears as well. You need to be able to go from fast to slow, strong to throwing yourself through the air, from athletic to power. You need to be able to switch through those gears. Like I've seen small cruiserweights think, well, I don't need to get myself in any kind of strength level because people will just throw me around. And then they're doing stuff that actually requires them to have some core strength or requires them to balance themselves, and they can't do it. And you think, well, what are you doing? You're not looking at the bigger picture with this. So, like I say, I wish more people had learned, but it's interesting because I think so fitness has also been a theme throughout your wrestling career, because after Drake Cavendish Wentworth, we had Team Hit, yourself and Percy Traynor, which I can't exactly remember. No, I can remember, because Percy was doing his version of it, which was always designed as Mr. Motivator on crack. And then you kind of said, well, why don't we do a tag version of it? And then the idea for Team Hit came about, and Team Hit was enormously successful.
It was, and you're right. So I remember it was actually a singles persona, singles gimmick idea for Percy to run with. And I remember the Sunday sessions in Hitchin, you were sort of spitballing ideas for it, and I was coming up with ideas for it, and I was thinking, oh, that's great. And while I was coming out with these ideas, I was getting really excited about it. And I was like, I kind of want some of this now. Like, I think this could really work as a tag gimmick. But prior to that, I only ever wrestled singles. Obviously, I now wrestle tag with Brad, but Percy and I, that was my first taste of any sort of tag action. And like you say, it was huge and took off really well, was well responded, and it had a lot of legs. And that's, why it lasted as long as it did as well.
Well, I think it helps you immensely as well as character, because beforehand you had the very kind of dour, straight-laced Hugo. You weren't even Hugo Wentworth. No, that's the title of this one. You were Cavendish Wentworth, and it was very almost one-dimensional in the sense of you were this Lord Steven Regal style heel, whereas this was a completely different side. This was bright, big, colourful, loud, explosive, which was something none of us had ever seen from you on a professional or personal level. When you first did it, we went, oh, it's almost like when you're playing through SmackDown versus Raw and you unlock a new attribute. Oh, he's unlocked his new skill set. Look at this. And you were really, really larger than life.
That was it. And I think actually at the start of that working that character, that's when I really came into my own and started to really just have fun with it. So not to say I didn't have fun at the beginning of my wrestling training and stuff like that. I did, but it was a lot of from my part, it was a lot of serious education. I had to learn a lot to get to a certain stage. It was as Carl Dio and part of Team Hit that I was like, I've got all that now. I'm going to go and have fun with it. And then that whole transition really took that on in a whole new light. And again, we've got so many opportunities sort of in and around different promotions, tag title runs as well, which we're ever thankful for.
The thing is, well, like I say to everyone, it was your promo picks are a big part of it, because you look at a raft of people potentially to put on your show as a promoter, then you see these two guys in luminous pink, yellow, and blue outfits with headsets on, big smiles, massively larger than life. You look at that as a promoter and go, well, people would look at that on a poster and go, I'm interested in seeing what this is. It's not just this guy with his shirt off doing a hard man pose against this guy with his shirt off doing a hard man pose. It's a character, it's a gimmick, it's larger than life. The kids went crazy for Team Hit. They absolutely loved it. And to the point where you're getting kids and even adults standing doing free squats with you before.
Yeah, absolutely. We made sure we went sort of balls to the wall with that gimmick and really hammed it up, in terms of accessories and stuff. We had those little mini hi-fi type Walkman headsets, the bum bags, the sweatbands, as you said, you name it. We had the whole 9 yards, but it was it was well recepted.
And I think another way of showing how over that was when you did the split and you turned on him, which I think it was when you turned on him was at Biggleswade, but it was the Royston show with the Rumble when he came out as a Power Ranger.
Yeah.
The noise that made when he came out as the Power Ranger, took you down and took the helmet off, the place erupted. And that shows you got personally invested.
There was a lot of reactions like that. So you mentioned that one in Royston. So the initial one, like you say, was in Biggleswade. I think we had just lost the tag belts, or we had lost a tag team match that was maybe in contention for the belts. I can't remember exactly. But that was the point where I was picking him up off the canvas. Sort of, I don't know if we hugged, but I remember holding his arm up. And that was the bit that I turned him around, gave him a clothesline, and just everyone gasped out of just shock. And actually, still to this day, I'm quite proud of the fact that we made a few kids cry that day.
That was the first time we ruined children's lifestyles. But
they're crying, saying like, "How could you? How could you?" But it was great, and like you say, it just shows people are invested.
Yeah, and then when you had the eventual blow-off match, again, I remember the staff at the venue basically said to people, you can't have anything from the bar because we need to go watch this. And everyone was watching it. And you two went out and you had a war. And it was a really good match. People were invested in it. People cared. That shows that the character work's successful. And again, you completely flipped it because you went from being this very serious to this real fun-loving to a dick, a kind of jock, douchebag. You completely evolved what you were, and people bought into it.
One of my favorite things about wrestling is just the evolution of characters and how people can start the journey as one thing and then, come to whenever it is they finish, they can be a completely different person. And, you can see every change, every step of the way of that evolution. This is probably actually the first time I've really sat and thought about, from the very start to where I am now, actually. So
it's interesting. I've done this now. This is episode number 6, and this is probably the 4th episode on the trot. I've had somebody go, never thought of it like that before. So maybe my therapy is helping me become some kind of psychotherapist and helping people look deep into their characters. I don't know. But you evolved a lot over the first few years and over the last few years. And you just kind of kept on growing. And the initial heel run of Carl Dio was purely designed to be yours and Percy's goodbye to Team Heel. And there was never going to be this long singles run by yourself because we were already planning for what was going to be the next step, which is the heavyweight heartbreakers, you and Brad Tanner.
Right,
which, again, life imitates art and art imitates life. It's very much an extension of you as a person because it turned up to 11 because it's the weightlifting belts, it's the jacked up weightlifter, it's the kind of look
megaphone.
Exactly. And it was a natural evolution, but it was probably the first organic evolution.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more on that.
And you think the success that you guys had in such a very short time, I mean, you cracked Europe in no time at all and worked Europe regularly and won tag team titles over in Europe as well. A lot of people never get that.
And, I don't like gloating or, parading sort of achievement and stuff like that. I'm not one of those types of guys. But I am really proud of, what we've been able to do and the opportunities we've been able to capitalize on. So there's 3, we've done one show in Malta. We've done a number of shows in the Netherlands and also in Germany. And we've currently got 2 sets of belts from Europe. So Germany and the Netherlands, which we're just dying to restart anywhere, in this country, fine, whichever country we've got to go to first to be able to do what we love doing again is what we'll do. We'll go anywhere really, but really grateful for the opportunities in Europe, and we look to go even further beyond that.
Well, I think you've got the foundation set because immediately people look at promo pictures of the two of you and go, okay, two big lads that are in shape, that take care of themselves. They've got professional gear, which is to a high quality. They've invested time in their look and time in their gimmick. People are going to get invested in that straight away. So you've done the hard work in terms of grabbing people's attention. Then when they see you as you're doing your work, I mean, you've evolved so much over the past couple of years in terms of when you tag wrestling is a very difficult kind of psychology and a very difficult kind of wrestling. It takes a bit longer to grasp because there's little subtle nuances in terms of timing, in terms of placements, in terms of the actual psychology. But that I've physically seen that grow over time, and you've got more comfortable in your stuff that you do. You're starting to get that resonance with each other, so you can feel what the other one's doing. That's the key to tagging, and you've got that going now. I mean, I really enjoyed the couple of sessions we've done when I've been working with you on double teams and tag team spots and timings and stuff. And hopefully when things reopen, we can do more of that because you've got the right attitude in terms of you've broken the back of it is you're two people, you actually get along with each other, which so many tag teams don't. You actually have got the same mindset of what you want to do, and you've got the same kind of goals. That's so much of the package done already, and it's just more experience. Yeah,
no, you're right. And I love tag wrestling. now that, I've been part of 2 tag teams, or I'm still part of 1 tag team, I prefer it so much more than singles competition. The amount of fun you can have with 4 people in a ring or in a match compared to just maybe 2 of you, and then the stories you can tell. I enjoy telling those stories, and I enjoy traveling on the road with Brad. Brad is like a brother to me now, to the point where we sort of travel around these different countries and stuff, and it is just like going away with like your best mate and your brother, really.
I'm excited to see the next iteration and the next chapter. Once the world kind of heals, I'm excited to see what you're going to do next, because I think you've got to a point now where the next step of it is going to be the explosive step, and you're going to go and start taking on the world. And you've got a product and you've got a brand now, which takes many people many years to get. And I think all it is opportunity now. Just opportunity, and it'll explode out from there.
Yeah, 100%. And so I can't wait for the academy, obviously, for us to be able to open the doors again on that, to attend sort of more sessions with you as the tag. We love learning from you. You watch the same sort of tag wrestling that we like, and therefore you're able to conjure up stuff from like years gone by that maybe we wouldn't have thought of, and that you can reflect onto us, and we can kind of go, yeah, we really like that. Let's take that. Show us how it works.
And I've had no shame in stealing things and recycling stuff, as we all know with my rocker spots.
Hell, I mean, to invent a new move or a new series of moves now is nigh on impossible, right? I mean,
it's very hard.
Yeah,
it's very hard. But I'm glad you said about the academy, because that takes us segue perfectly straight onto our next point, which is Square One. Just to give the listeners some background, the evolution it's been was originally myself, Cruz, and Skip. We were running a small place in Letchworth, which was with a place called Slam Wrestling at the time, which was run by a guy called Chris Peacock. We always called Crispy Cock. And yeah, I know. That went for a little while. That broke down for various reasons. Then Skip and Cruz went on and started the Hertfordshire School, which was great. It was a good small place for people to start. That then kind of became the UBW School, and I got involved in that. We generated a lot of good talent out of that place in the kind of early days of UBW, and then beyond there, and it's kind of grown and grown and grown and grown. Then, of course, that closed down for various reasons. But then you were doing Square One as a kind of real kind of starter ground separately. But when we closed down the main one and Square One became an entity in itself, it just went and put a rocket up its arse and flew off, because you took the genesis of an idea and turned it into something, which was a bold thing. Because I remember at the time thinking, this is a big venture to take on. It's hard to launch, especially in the area that we're in. I was worried, but no, you went off your own back and you got the venue, you put all the work into it. And Square One now is, I mean, obviously I've got the email alerts of when people are booking ring sessions, and I see some of the names coming up that are booking sessions, and they're top names on the circuit, and they're training there, they're using our facility. And it's become such a body of itself now that Square One is its own entity. And you've been running the academy shows as well, which again have grown and grown and grown and grown to capacity now. And everyone that's on those shows is growing to become main roster stars as well. Yeah. Give us a bit of background on kind of how you came up with the idea, or how you've grown Square One and where we've gone thus far. And obviously we've hit difficult times because of the pandemic, but you've still kept it growing. You've still kept evolving it. And what's going to be next?
Absolutely. So I touched on just a moment ago about sort of evolution, like personal evolution and character evolution, and seeing that. That's very fulfilling. But actually, what I get more fulfillment and enjoyment out of is the development of the overall brand, the overall product, the school, seeing the guys come through and go on to bigger and better things. So the Square One started, well, in terms of the brand, it came about a couple of years ago. And it was after us obviously running a series of like some really good shows. We were hiring a ring. The training was all mat based because of the venue that we were in Brooks's. And I thought, you know what, if we're going to take this to the next level, I need to buy a ring. So I bought the 18-footer. the show ring. We then started just hiring a village hall for beginners classes, and we had a real good crop of guys and girls come through that academy, which, they had to come along, spend an hour setting up the ring. They would then train for like 3 or 4 hours, and then they'd have to pull the ring down again. And that was week in, week out. And they didn't moan or shed a tear over having to do that if that gave them ring time, which, I was really proud and thankful for in terms of that approach, because if they didn't have that approach, it wouldn't have happened. I don't have the ability to be able to put a ring up on my own for 2 hours of a day for them people just to turn up and then disappear again and not help out. It's about paying dues. That's how you guys taught me. So that's how I'm teaching other guys. And it was after that point of doing that for a while and running those academy shows once a month, again, seeing new people come in. It was kind of like our NXT, our developmental, in the fact that people could try a gimmick like Captain Cassius, fail with it, know it was not the best move, and then come up with something better. But they can do that in that limited, isolated type bubble. Obviously then, due to COVID, obviously the academy shut, just like every academy across the country. And it was over last summer again. It gave me the gap from training, the gap from shows, allowed me to sort of sit and really look at the business plan again and go, right, where is this going? What's the next iteration? What's the next move for UBW, for Square One? And, we got chatting and mentioned about a couple of venues that we could potentially lease, done some viewing and things like that. And then came across what is now the Square One Academy in Little Wymanley. So I remember last summer sort of getting all of the UBW talent on that video call and sort of saying, I hope you guys are going to put your money where your mouth is when it comes to this place, because I've just gone and signed that lease. Yeah. Put down a whacking deposit, bought a second ring, the 14-foot training ring, for that to be up full time, and it's kind of like almost repayment for those guys that, came week in, week out, put the ring up, pulled it down again. It's kind of repayment for them. So thanks for doing that for that amount of time. We've now got the faith to take it to the next step. If you guys again back this and you make the most of it, it just enables, future growth. And you mentioned about some of the names that are booking on. I mean, it's tremendous in terms of how it's sort of spread, even in such a short time and under so much restriction sort of coming and going. I'm really proud about some of the names that are coming through the door, just to even use it as a space to collaborate, a space to, hone their own craft and work on stuff, without having to have, coaches there. Obviously, beginners, the juniors classes, they're all fully coached and obviously aren't happening at the moment. But where you've got guys and girls that have been on the road for years and they've been doing shows for years, they just need somewhere to practice. Yeah. And to be able to do that on an affordable budget within the local area as well. I mean, it's fantastic. And actually, I say local area, some people are really doing the miles in terms of coming and training there. It's great.
Well, the thing is as well, for anyone that wants to use it, anyone who wants to use a wrestling facility, the main things they care about are safety and the actual facilities of the facility. So you can go to some places and, we've got a training place. It's a 12-foot ring that feels like concrete. That's not useful. Or they go somewhere and it's very restricted as to how much they can use it per day or per week or whatever.
Yeah.
Whereas Square One is fully functional. It's a big place. It's got a good system behind it. And the thing as well, from our perspective, there's a lot of people there that are training there at the moment that have every potential in the world getting up on NXT UK tomorrow. To think that we could be helping them just refine that last little thing or help them get ready for end up being on the big stage, that's an incredible thing to think about. That, we don't want plaudits for it. We don't want them to sit there and go, yeah, well, thank you, Triple H, but, Square One Wrestling, this is not going to happen.
Yeah.
But to know that we may be helping them, that's an incredible thing. And, I see it growing and growing and growing and growing as it goes along. And to your point about the original crew that were setting up the ring, taking it down at the previous venue, yeah, they have paid their dues, a lot more than most people that are actually out there as pros on the circuit now. And for those of them that are listening to this, and you should all be listening to us because, paying your dues, but, it's going to pay it back. That kind of stuff doesn't get forgotten about. And
no, absolutely
every
not.
one of them is going to get looked after, and every one of them is going to get not special treatment, but they're going to get special consideration when it comes to, right, okay, who's really earned this? Who's put the work in? And it'll get paid back to them because they're all developing immensely and getting up to where they need to be. And they're the next generation. They're the ones that are going to be the next batch of stars to come out of it.
Yeah. And again, couldn't agree with you more on that. And just something I will say as well is every single person that joins, I kind of tell them why we're doing this in terms of having the space and giving people that platform and that safe space to be able to train and stuff like that, and why it's important because, I've got a career outside of wrestling, but that's my bread and butter in terms of paying my bills and stuff like that. UBW and Square One is really all about having, yes, we run it as a business. Yes, it makes money, but yes, 100% it goes back into the business. And finances aside, the main thing that we get out of this is actually, first of all, seeing other people grow. But secondly, and maybe more selfishly, but in a smart sense, is that if the local talent make use of that facility, they train more, they practice more, they learn more, the only thing that it's going to do to the local shows is make them better. So when we use that local talent on local shows, those shows are going to be 10 times better than what they were. The fans are going to see that. We're going to attract more fans, and people are going to just enjoy the product more. So it's a win-win for everyone, really. Yeah. And that's the main aim for this. And like you say, if someone can come onto a UBW show or train at Square One, go on to bigger and better things in whatever capacity, whether it's in this country or another one, get signed up, then absolutely brilliant. I look forward to my free WrestleMania tickets.
Yeah. And it's funny, because I'm literally thinking as you're talking this, what my next step of this podcast is going to be and where we're going to segue to next. And you've literally set up the next segue without me even telling you. So it's perfect. You're in my head. It's quite impressive. But onto UBW as a whole.
Yeah.
UBW has always been, and I think you agree with me on this, it's always been the place that we want to be, big for what it is and great for what it is, but we never had any kind of designs or mentality that this was going to be the WWE NXT UK, that this was going to be the level of Rev Pro. This was never going to be the global thing, but as big as it could be and as great as it could be, but it's always been a place for us to put on great shows for people, for everyone to enjoy as a local product, but for the workers to either learn and develop and then go out and spread their wings into the wider world, or people that are already experienced to come in, have a good environment, to work with some different people, develop some different things. It's always been that kind of middle ground. It's not a kind of advanced trainee show, and it's not national level, but it's that point. It's a launching off pad, I've always said for people. And I think we're seeing that now because so many people that have come through have gone on to bigger and better things, or people that have started with us have gone on to even bigger things from there. And it's great for that. And Square One is just further defining and reinvigorating that, because the new generation that are coming through there, they'll go straight onto our shows first. Then one day they'll go out and they'll go on from there. But I think what's been impressive, to be honest, is that we have generated lots of stars that are now becoming names on the circuit, that are becoming must-have talents. You just look at the biggest successes, if you will. Bobby cracked Japan and was a star.
Yeah, 100%, yeah.
Crowley pretty much owns the wrestling business these days. Tommy Kyle's getting out there, getting work all the time. You and Brad cracked Europe, which is, can't be understated, is not as easy as people think.
No.
And then so many more on from there. And Paddy and Memes are going to be the next ones to branch out and do bigger stuff. And there's so many more. And then you've got the likes of Jimbo and of Kickflip and I'm forgetting people's gimmick names, but Joel and Josh. And these people and Laura, they're coming through. And they're going to be the next generation, the ones that a few years ago, it was Drake Cavendish Wentworth, and it was Percy Traynor, and it was Valentine. Who are these guys? Now they're big stars. They're the next ones to do it. And I'm really excited for what we're doing for people.
No, absolutely. And like I say, that's what I get out from this. I mean, it's not, I don't do it for the money. Obviously the money is great and the money makes it possible, i.e. having a facility open. Right? If no one used the facility would be closed and it wouldn't be there for anyone. It's, quite frank and honest about that. The other thing as well, just sort of from a show standpoint, is there's a lot of competition, for spots on shows. So unless you are the best version of you that you can be, you're not going to you're going to maybe get overlooked for by someone for a role on a show because someone else is maybe doing more, making more of an effort. They're training harder, they're training more. But obviously, if you have access to somewhere like Square One and you're able to train daily if you wish, and for it not to break the bank, it's only going to go one way, and that's up. And you mentioned about sort of UBW and Square One versus WWE and other brands and how we compare. And we've never created UBW or Square One to imitate those other companies. We know it's not even worth comparing the two. And we are absolutely a great place for someone to start to learn, but then also to use as a base to develop on their journey. Whether they come to classes or not, that's not a big deal for the guys that are maybe out and about and are getting regular work and stuff like that. They might just need to come and rehearse something before a TV taping.
The shows as well, because I was saying to CJ, and he was saying that. CJ's been going a very, very long time, a lot more than you realise. And his time in UBW, he was saying, is the first time he's had a chance to really invest in his character or to really put some meat into the bones of what he's doing. Because so many places, they'll book you and you're wrestler A versus wrestler B for 8 minutes. Oh, after you is wrestler C versus wrestler D for 6 minutes. And you're just a match. Whereas I've always tried really hard to make sure that everyone's got a purpose, everyone's got a story, everyone's got a reason for what they're doing. And he was saying that this is the most chance he's had and the most input he's had into being something. So even for the people that are experienced or they're established, they can come into UBW and get something with some meat on to chew on in terms of either a match or an angle or a storyline. They can have something to do while they're there. And that's what I want it to be as well, not just as a launching pad for people, but for the experienced ones as well. Oh, let's go work somewhere where I can actually do something with what I've got and not just flip around for 10 minutes and go, oh, well, that went well. And it'd be more than that.
No, I was just going to say, we're really adding value to what people can do. And I'm really proud of the academy and the promotion and so the bigger plans for when we're able to sort of relaunch and redo shows and stuff, and fingers crossed later on this year should everything go to plan. But
again, something that CJ mentioned, and I think Crowley mentioned it as well. I'm much like yourself. I'm not one for bigging myself up, and I don't take compliments. But one resounding thing I've had from every single person that's ever worked our shows, especially in the last few years, is they've all said, I'm amazed at the quality of the product and the quality of the delivery of what you do on the budget you have. We don't have a budget. We live show to show. We get by. We do well. But we don't have thousands in the bank. We don't have big backers. We don't have sponsors. We do this off our own back. And to put out the quality of product that we have done, and this is in big parts, thanks to all the work that Greg, Billy, and Laura have done, because they've added so much to it as well. But to produce what we've produced as a product on the budget we have and on the capabilities we have, having full-time jobs and everything else, it's quite impressive. And I think that's what's really helped our branding on the scene. A lot of people go, hey, have you seen that stuff that UBW's doing? They're really putting something into it. And that's great because it helps us in terms of our credibility, but it also helps us as a product because people are looking at it going, look at this, look at the production values, look at what they're doing, look at the product they're making. It's really something to be proud of. I think we've done quite an incredible job over the short period of time we've been going in terms of the growth and evolution.
Yeah, and it's been natural as well, hasn't it? Like you mentioned, there's no there's no big millionaire backer, or there's no investors or anything like that. But basically, if a show doesn't draw, it's coming out of sort of the pockets to cover it. So I can't afford to lose money on shows. So we make sure that sort of we budget, and like you say, we don't have a huge budget to deal with, but we do well with what we've got. And I see a large part of my role being to grow that over time, so we can do more, and we can have that marquee cage match to end a feud of all feuds, that kind of thing that others can do more often than maybe we can. But
we've laid the foundations for that in terms of, we've had ladder matches. We've had coming out in a coffin. We've had the summertime display on the rampway. We've had all these great little bits and pieces added on that give that extra feel. And, I've had people from across the pond, from the States, from Chikara wrestling when it was a thing, and elsewhere look at it and go, oh, that looks quite good, that. And they're interested in, if we ever come over there, we'd like to work there. That's the best compliment you can ever get. And the various people have seen what we do and gone, that's really quite impressive for the scale that you're at. And I'm immensely proud of everyone that's worked on the shows and everyone that's put the effort in, because you can dress, you can put a Versace dress on a pig, it's still a pig. If the content of what we put out in the 3 hours that are out there wasn't good enough, then it wouldn't matter how good it looks. But, everyone that's been out there that has put the effort in on the shows has helped grow it and make it what it is. Got a tremendous group of people that give their heart and soul to it. And that's what drives me to keep on going.
And long may it continue as and when we can reopen. I for one, I'm again excited to see who as soon as we can all train again and all that on the regular, then I'm excited to see who's going to sort of show up and who's going to really give it their all and be hungry and be sort of fighting for those spots, because whilst we try and cater for as many people as we can and make it more of a variety show, as we mentioned, there are limited numbers of spots on shows. I mean, there is a budget after all, and whilst people are fighting for those sort of fewer spots, I think it'll only help that sort of competition.
Well, I was saying this to somebody the other day who was somebody who was saying, it'd be good if I had a shot to do this and do that and maybe this, and here's a few matches I could do. I have like a 7-show period. And I said, okay, it's fine. Do you want to call Spike and tell him he's off shows? Or do you want to call Tommy Kyle and say that, sorry, mate, you can't work for the next 6 months? Because somebody has to lose a spot for you to have that spot. So if you're prepared to make the phone call to that person and say, sorry, mate, I'm bumping you off shows because I think I'm more important, you go for it. But someone has to, dead man in, dead man out kind of thing. It has to be that way. And they went, oh, well, no. Well, then sit back. Everyone will get their chance and it'll all come to everybody, but we have to cycle people around. And it's the ones that put the effort in and show the time and effort that are going to get that spots, because it's not, we can't have 50 people on the show. Can't do it.
No, exactly, yeah. But, and obviously with us attracting more and more people to the academy as well, even experienced guys, we're going to have a lot of people to consider and to think about and to maybe factor in at some point. But like you say, it can't all happen every show. So
no, but you know what the inbox is like as soon as we announce it. It's on fire. So yeah. So look, we're going to get close to wrapping up. So one thing I did want to just say is that something I meant to thought about a few minutes ago. When you actually launched the current Square One facility, when I went into that for the first time, I remember going into that place and seeing it and just thinking, my God, this is amazing. Yeah, and it was shortly after that I went in by myself to record something. That was for an interview I had to do.
Yes, that was it, yeah. And
I was just in there quietly by myself. And in that time between the first time I'd been there and that time, you'd put the banner up, you'd redress the ring, you'd put some more decorations up and stuff. I just stood there for a minute and just looked around and just took it all in. And I honestly, no word of a lie, got teary-eyed because because I was thinking back to like 15 years ago, and I had this vision for what I wanted the breeding ground as it was going to be. Yeah. And it was never possible for a bunch of reasons. And I saw what Square One had become and what it was. And just to see this fully fledged, fully operational facility for people to come and become, it made me really emotional. And I was like, do you know what? Even if I didn't do anything anymore, I could be happy finishing off with this, because this is incredible. What it's become and the amount of work you put into it, to see that reflecting back on you and being a payoff for all the work you put in, because nobody's put in the work over the years like you have, in terms of the effort, in terms of the traveling, in terms of the previous school, the ring transports. Nobody's put the effort in like you. And to see this coming back and you getting applauded for it, somebody said to me the other day, like, oh, so amazing what you've done with the facility. And I said, no, what Hugo's done with the facility, not me. What that has become is an incredible reflection on you. And I'm just stoked to be a part of it personally.
Oh, mate, that's really good to hear. And I don't really know what to say other than the fact that, when we first discussed, the idea and emphasis was put on it, obviously having to sort of cover its own cost. And you mentioned about your plans for like the breeding ground and stuff like that, just to be able to offer you the ability to have your own branded package sort of sessions there, and having the breeding ground classes there for those who are sort of at show level and ready to sort of develop and tweak their character or move sets. And it's important to have that. And even since probably the last time you stepped into the academy, like last time we were allowed to in the class environment, there's more kit been added, and it just sort of goes to reiterate the point about the reinvestment. Like the more it's used, and the more we can collectively make it a better place, really. But
I think as soon as we can get several 6-foot banners of me around the place, we'll be set. That's the next step. Yeah, no, well, you need to be so proud of yourself.
Yeah, I'm really proud of the place, and see where it goes down the line. But I'm just really excited for it. Really,
it's exceeded what so many people expected it to be already. So the future's just nothing but bright in my eyes.
Oh yeah, that's great, and so many of the guys are thankful, and that's what I think. That's the best bit about this. Everyone's really respectful of the place, whoever uses it. Yeah. I've not had one single person come and abuse it, misuse stuff, try and damage stuff, try and cause an issue, try and cause drama. And the second that sort of thing happens, it's a case of just having a quiet word with the person and asking them to buck up or shut up and piss off. I'm not going to sort of ponder to people that don't have the respect for the place. Everyone's really respectful and thankful to have the place to go to. So as long as everyone's like that, I'm happy to keep backing it and growing it organically.
Absolutely. Well, look, let's go on to the last bits of this, the important stuff. These are the important questions I throw at everybody. Okay. It gives me a real kind of understanding of them as a person, and it also gives me something to criticize them for as well. But in wrestling, what is the favorite match you have ever watched, and what is the favorite match you've ever been a part of? It can be anything at all over the entire time you've been a fan.
That's hard. That's really hard. God.
I always look at it this way to help people out. If you were told you can only ever watch one match ever for the rest of your time, what would that match be?
Probably Brett versus Bulldog, SummerSlam, is it 92? Wembley?
Yeah.
That one. Like I say, I don't watch huge amounts of wrestling, you know that. So anything that's maybe happened more recently has probably completely bypassed me. But I guess if I had to pick one, it's probably that. Favourite match I've been a part of? Again, that's a tough one. And it's been so long as well since sort of had that feel in the ring.
I think it's clear that you versus me in Royston when I was blowing up, and I just kept giving you props.
Oh dear, that was that was in Peterborough, wasn't it?
No, hold on. Are we thinking the 3-way?
Yeah.
No, we had a singles match as well, don't forget.
Oh, we did have a singles match, yeah. No, as I say, I thought you'd be referencing the three-way and the following Rumble from
now you've reminded me. Now you've reminded me. We'll get that in a minute. But carry on. What's your favourite one you've been in?
I don't know, actually. I actually really enjoyed the I Quit match that I had with Percy. And I know it sort of goes against the thing that I've just said about the whole tag wrestling. But I think that match was something special. And I know we were both really proud of what happened throughout that match and as a culmination to that story. I mean, there are countless tag matches which I've absolutely loved as well, but that singles match is actually is very much up there.
It was a really good match, and considering both of yours experience level, it was really, really impressive to pull off what you did. But there was genuine feel behind it from the fans. They cared who won or lost. They cared what happened to you both. They were invested in you, and you can't help but feel that. And it was a good match as well, apart from that. And we've got that classic picture of the chain in your mouth and you're wide-eyed looking at the camera. It's fantastic stuff.
Love a good facial. Use that how you wish.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so before we finish off, you've now reminded me. So this is for the listeners. This is a quick little tidbit of information. So a show in Peterborough. Myself, it's Hugo, and it was, I can't remember the other lad's name, doing a three-way dance.
He was fairly green, wasn't he?
Yes.
So was I. It was Drake, Cavendish, Wentworth.
So the three-way was funny purely because this was before you got some of the exuberance out of yourself and you were still a little bit lively in there. Because I vividly remember being in the corner with him standing there punching me in the corner, doing the old 10-punch count, and all of a sudden you hit him from behind, and all I can explain it as is his body passed through my face because you hit him so hard and pushed him forward. My head just kind of swallowed into his stomach.
Yeah, I remember that.
Jesus Christ. But the night was topped off by the Rumble. So it was me and you in there and two other lads, two very nice young lads. I suppose they must have been about what? 85 pounds, 86 pounds a piece in weight.
Oh, it wet through.
If that. Good lads, though. Nice, respectful, good young lads. There was 2 points. There was one when I was working with the one of them, and he was on the apron, and he decided to sunset flip me in a Rumble. And all I've heard from the other side of the ring is you to shout out, "What are you doing? You can't pin someone in a Rumble, you idiot." And I then powerbombed him. And
do you not remember his mum saying,
just about
"No son of mine"?
Yeah, as I drove him with this power bomb, his mother in the front row just went, "He's no son of mine." And I just remember looking down, going, "Oh mate, I'm sorry. You've been disowned by your mother." But no, the pinnacle of this show by far was you were in a corner with that other lad.
Yeah.
But you're on one corner and I'm on the adjacent corner and I'm working away and I've looked over. He's working you. He's got all fire and piss and vinegar in him, and he's firing back.
I was gesturing, suplexing him from the inside of the ring to the outside. He knew I wasn't going to suplex him outside the ring to eliminate him from the Rumble. But I was like,
you should have done.
Yeah, maybe I should have done. In fact, yeah, hindsight's a wonderful thing, right? So I told him to fight out of it. And the way that he fought out of it was to lock his leg straight and kick like he was kicking for an American football in a game, right? And he just punted with all of his 85-pound force. But even still, guys, like a 2-year-old could punch you in the nose and you'll cry, right? Anyway, this guy has swung his stiff leg right up into my balls, basically, and I just. Yeah, it was a slow motion sort of just dropped to my knees, then to my face, and then I laid underneath the bottom rope for a considerable amount of time whilst you were looking over, laughing your head off.
Well, what always stuck with me was the noise because it sounded... Yeah. You ever had like a fillet of chicken that you drop on the counter? It makes that kind of flop, splop sound. It was a combination of that and a gunshot.
Yeah, like cupping, wasn't it? Like a loud clap, but like cupping.
When he connected, the noise was so loud of his instep making contact with your testicles.
Yeah.
10, 12 feet away on the other side. I just looked and just went, oh, God, that's going to hurt. And I remember the kid I was with, I reached into him, into like a clinch. He started giggling and I went, oh, he's going to be down for a while. He's down. And you were in the fetal position for about 5 minutes. It was so funny.
I'm not sure I'd done anything after that. I think I maybe just got up and was eliminated. But
it was so funny. Because remember, he said to me, the lady went, oh, should we check if he's all right? I went, no, he's fine. Leave him alone.
Almost certain I coughed on my own balls in my throat. It was that. It was that much of a swing and punt, honestly.
I at one point I expected your testicles to pop out your mouth like a snake's tongue.
Yeah, It was not
amazing.
Really not.
Okay, let's finish this up. So last bits. One thing I do with all my guests is what they call desert island discs rip-off. The idea that you're going to be stuck on a desert island. You get a chance to take with you one album, one TV show / movie, and one object. And the object can't be a living thing. It has to be an object. But if you're looking at one single album, one single TV show or movie, and one object, what would you take?
Holy crap. I don't know the names of many albums, I'm really terrible with
you're not an entertainment medium kind of guy. You're very low.
It's really hard. It's really hard. I don't know.
The entire works of one artist, who would you pick?
Okay. Probably Stereophonics. Actually.
Okay.
Yeah. Then film, I'd say probably Con Air. Nicolas Cage.
Damn good choice.
Yeah. It's a very, very good film. Put the bunny back in the bar. And then object. I think most people probably say mobile phone, don't they? Although that wouldn't work on a desert island.
CJ, because he's addicted to his.
Yeah. It's just because it opens the route for more, doesn't it? But
I'm going to have to start banning mobile phone as an answer from this one onwards.
Yeah. Maybe the tag titles.
Nice.
If all I'm going to do is live on a desert island, I can sort of reflect back on good times.
On better times, yeah. That's fair. Okay. Well, look, we're going to finish this up. So my little bit I want to say at the end is to put things in perspective, when you first came along with UBW, I was done with wrestling. I was like, I've had enough. I don't want to do it anymore. I'm disillusioned. I really want to give this up. And I think I had in my mind that I might want to try and do one or two last matches with a couple of people close to me, and that was it. UBW gave me a second life. And especially once I got involved in the creative side, training and booking, it almost took over my life, but it gave me a second life. And it kind of has helped me through immensely, because one of the things in my therapy we're going through is my whole hero, hero complex.
Yeah.
This really leads that, because it helps me kind of take these youngsters and take them down a dark path of ruining their body for wrestling. But, it's given me a whole second life. And although over the years we've clashed various times on creative ideas or directions and stuff, we've always come to an agreement on it, and one of us has always made the other one see their point, and we've always kind of resonated on it. But what between us we've managed to do with UBW over those years has literally almost kind of saved me as a person, and it's been so pivotal and foundational to me as the last 5-6 years of me being a person, and kept me sane. But I'm immensely proud of what we've done thus far, and I'm immensely proud of what you're doing. Starting out as a young lad that's interested in becoming a wrestler, to becoming a business mogul, head of what is up and coming the best training facility in the country, and behind just an incredible entity that UBW is. I'm so proud of your development and all the stuff that you've gone through over the years and your personal growth. It's really good to see. But, I'm just so proud of you, what you've achieved over the years. And you've only just started the journey, really, to be honest. And I'm excited to see the next 5 years of what you're going to do next.
Oh, mate. Well, thanks very much. I mean, some huge compliments and huge words and stuff there. It's hard to know what to say really, other than thank you. And to be honest, it wouldn't be where it is now if we weren't both putting in the hours that we have done with respect to different parts of the shows and all that sort of stuff and the setup of it all. And yeah, I can't wait to see what we do with the shows going forward as well.
And look at it this way: if it wasn't for me, you wouldn't have almost had criminal charges from Lister Hospital.
Oh God, yeah.
We'll leave that one for another time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, look, mate, thank you for this time. It's been wonderful. I'm going to get this edited out and out for the next episode. It's been important to me to have you on here so people know kind of what's really been behind UBW from the word go, and what you've done for them, what you're continuing to do for them. And it's been nice having a good chat and just kind of going back over old memories. So
yeah, it's been nice. I can't believe it's been 2 hours.
Honestly, I promised myself after the Crowley episode, I'm going to try and keep these to an hour, but you can't. You just, us wrestlers love to hear the sound of our own voice.
And there's a lot of years there. You covered 8 years. I mean, Crowley's obviously not been along so long, but CJ, I should imagine as well, I'd probably plenty, but
yeah. I mean, we could easily, spend 5-6 hours each person going over stuff because people underestimate how much is involved in wrestling. But yeah, it's been fantastic. Thank you for your time, mate. I'm going to get edited next. But any last words you want to put on?
No, mate. That's it, really. Really thankful for having me on.
Yeah. Well, if everyone gets a special musical outro, so I'll have to start thinking about what I'm going to do for yours. Maybe just the sound of a wet chicken fillet hitting the ground. But, mate,
please play that sound effect.
Yeah, let's do that for 2 minutes straight. Thank you, mate. And good luck. Let's hope for the future, yeah?
Yeah. Cheers, bud. Speak to you soon.
Bye, mate.
Take care. Bye.